Morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have a very special guest on, a lady by the name of Malaysia. Her name is Malaysia Harrell, and Malaysia will be joining us in just a moment. I am so excited to hear her story. She is a beautiful, shining light in this world. You're going to love this woman's energy and everything about her. So, do me a favor and share this out. If you would, share it out, share it out, share it out, and let's get a bunch of people on here watching. Stay with us. I'll be right back with Malaysia Harrell. All right, we are back. Let me bring Malaysia on. Malaysia, welcome to Breakthrough Walls.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for having me. This is so amazing.
I'm excited to have you on. So, we met recently because of the passing of a very dear friend, Robbie Cornelius. We were on a live stream together honoring and celebrating Robbie's amazing life and energy, and that's where we met, and I just loved your energy
Thank
and yeah, so welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. Under the circumstances, we've experienced a lot of grief, but I
Yeah.
feel like the community and everyone who was on Clubhouse during the
Yeah.
pandemic, we're all
Yeah.
really coming back together. So,
Look at Joe Ingram.
hey, Joe.
He said I have.
He's so funny.
He probably does, the truth be
I
told.
doubt
I
it.
know. So Malaysia, this is about your life story and the ups and the downs and how you've had breakthroughs in life. And it's really, the show is to inspire other people to make
Yeah.
major changes in their life and become better. So I'm very excited to hear your story. So start with telling everybody where you were born and raised. Where did it all begin for you?
So I was born and raised in Springfield, Massachusetts. It's a small town, about 2.5 hours from New York City. So I grew up, it was, it was a very challenging environment that I grew up in. My mom, she was a single parent of three girls. So I'm the oldest of three
Wow.
girls. Yeah, and I really want to thank her for now that, I've had my own experiences, I really see, how tough that could have been raising three girls. So,
Yeah, I'm sure.
yeah,
I'm sure as a single mother that was challenging to say the
definitely.
least. So in Springfield, Massachusetts, okay. What so you went to, is that where you went to school and high school and everything
Yes.
was right there?
Yep. I went
Okay.
to Central High School, home
Okay.
of the Golden Eagles. And that's where I started my career, I guess, military. I was in junior ROTC in the drill team with
Wow.
rifles. So that took up a lot of my, teenage
Yeah.
years.
Wow.
Springfield is known for the Basketball Hall of Fame. So you got to visit if you haven't been there.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've not been there. I don't think no, I've not been there. I'm sure of it. Maybe driven through or something. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but yeah.
absolutely.
So you were in ROTC.
Junior ROTC. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
remember us going to the White House every year. We went to the Capitol. We went to the Twin Towers every year.
Wow.
Yes. Hmm.
Wow. You're dating yourself now.
I know.
Like, wait a minute. Let's see.
I'm
I'm
still
Carrie the
young. I'm still
one.
young.
Right. So, wow, you went to in New York.
Every year.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So, when you got out of high school,
Hmm.
because this is the way ROTC works, I believe, you go directly to the military, right?
No, so
Oh,
I didn't go. We had a chief master sergeant retired, uh, chief Chief Master Sergeant Palmer, rest his soul. He wanted me to go to the Air Force Academy because he was trying to get me and another student who were people of color, to go to the academy. But I felt like ROTC had taken up all of my youth, all of my
mm,
years. And so I just wanted to do something different and try something different. I had been through a lot coming up in the city, a lot of trauma, a lot
mm,
of, different things that domestic violence, abuse, all kind of things. And so I just wanted some time to really explore who I was as a person,
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Did you go to college, or what did
did.
you do?
I did. So I
Okay.
attended the University of Massachusetts,
Okay.
Amherst. Yep,
Okay.
Amherst, Mass. And so, I loved the school. It was amazing. And I did do 1 year of ROTC in college in the Army, and then I did 1 year in the Air Force. So I actually did do 2 years. I majored in psychology with a
Wow.
minor in pre-med. So originally, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it was a good experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you go all the way through college?
I did. So after I
Okay.
graduated from the University of Massachusetts, I actually did take some time off before I went into my master's program. So I
Okay.
was working for the Department of Corrections in the state of Connecticut. So I started off as a correctional officer, and then the day
In
that
a prison?
in the prison,
What?
yes,
In the
yes,
hold it. Okay, were you in the women's prison or
no,
the
no, sir,
what? You
no,
stop
sir.
it. Are you serious?
My life, I think, prepared me for everything that I've experienced. I feel like my life prepared me for it,
Look
seriously.
look who's watching. Do you see the comment on the screen?
Hey,
I
Larry.
love that dude.
Yeah, Larry is my coach, everyone. He is
He's
amazing.
oh my
I don't
gosh.
know where I'd be without him right now.
He doesn't know it, but he's my coach too. I love that guy. He's
I love him
amazing.
too.
Notice how much more excited we got about Larry being here than Joe. I'm
Joe's
just
my
kidding.
brother. I
I
love
know he's
Joe.
my brother too. I love that dude.
Yeah.
So okay, so let me I saw Larry pop on, it totally threw me off. Um so you were in say it again. I'm sorry. You went through ROTC in the for 1 year in the Army and college, 1 year in the Air Force.
That's
Then
correct.
you went into the master's program.
Yeah, well, I started in the prison system for the
Oh,
state of
prison.
Connecticut.
That's right. We were in
Yeah,
prison.
I did my bid. I did my time.
Okay. That I can't even. Okay. So I cannot imagine what it's like being a woman. Not to sound like I'm not trying to be a whatever that word is, but I can't believe that you worked in a male penitentiary.
I actually, so the day that I got off of probation, it was like a 9 month probation. And I got promoted to a correctional counselor. I wanted to be a counselor. I thought I would go into prison reform. And so
Yeah.
they sent me to the maximum security prison, so the death row prison. And so I had
Oh,
started, it was crazy. Let me just tell
what?
you. it was crazy. Everything that you see on TV is kind of dramatized, but it is its own subset of the community. It's very different.
And this is are these all death row inmates that you're
No,
dealing with?
so I
Oh,
had the maximum security. I had one tier of or one entire unit of the maximum security. So I did have the death row inmates in my, yeah, for my caseload.
and you're okay. And say hi to Lynn Serrano. Hey,
Hey,
Lynn.
Lynn. Thank
Um,
you,
I
Lynn.
know I love Lynn.
I love Lynn. She's my
I
sister too.
she introduced me on stage at an event years ago. She
Yeah.
introduced, it was really, I love Lynn.
Yeah.
So okay. And you're like a counselor, right? Like you're like a
I was a correctional officer, and then I got promoted to being a counselor.
oh my
And so
God.
I went and worked on the death row
What?
facility. And then I ended up starting my master's program because I thought I would do prison reform. So I'm like, let me go get my master's in social work. I decided not
Yeah.
to go to medical school at that point because I wanted to do more of counseling, more of, policy impact. And
Yeah.
so I decided to get my master's in social work. So I started at the University of Connecticut in Hartford with my master's
Okay.
program, and I was
Okay.
doing that while I was working in the prison system. I worked so much. I think because I had come up with very low means, I wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that I was secure. So I was doing substitute teaching. I was in school. I was working for the prison. So
You know what though? That is, I love that.
yeah.
There, I detect no sense of entitlement, and
Oh,
I
I
think
worked.
that no, I'm. Look, your facial, you just
I
changed.
worked.
Like you're like, oh no. But
Yes.
that's a problem in today's society. There's a
Yeah.
lot of entitlement surging through our veins. So talk about just give me some stories. I'm like I love watching all what are they called? Like real life prison videos and stuff where
Yeah.
you see inmates, like it's all like there's these little mafia cliques or something, like, and they all got each other. It's crazy, some of
It's
the stuff that
crazy.
I've seen on real life videos.
It's
But
crazy.
talk about some of the stuff that you experienced as a counselor there. Were you able to help some people turn their life around?
So in the facility that I had, it was the most dangerous,
What?
inmates in the world. We had death row, we had, so it was a little bit different. And to me it looked like a dark version of the Starship Enterprise, because everywhere you went, every couple of cells you had another door. And so if there was an incident, they could contain that incident. And what I realized is that they let me go home every day. They're, even though they're
Wow.
locked up, they're the most dangerous.
Yeah.
And I will give you a story, one that I think you could take for the books. And I think this is important for anyone. And
Yeah.
so there was this one, we had the warden, who I think he was a Marine in the past or something.
Right.
But I think he was very militant in his mindset, which can be very good for leadership roles.
Sure.
However, when you're dealing with people, it doesn't matter the crimes that they committed, because when I tell you that I read the files and I read the crimes of some of the things that these men did, let me tell you something. If you do not have a sense of their humanistic
Yeah.
side, then
Yeah.
you may treat them, or you may want to treat them and talk to them in a way that they're scum, or they're low hanging
Yeah.
fruit. And I never did that. I always talked to everyone like they were a human being. I didn't get in the tick for tack or swearing at them, even though they say terrible things to you. You want to say bad things, but it's like, I'm getting paid for this and I'm going home. So I
Right.
need to keep my sanity. So there was this one day. So I remember the warden would always say, if someone made a complaint, he'd say, sue me. Like he didn't care. He didn't have a sense of emotional when he came through the tier, and it would rev them up. It would rev, I think it was worse because they would get all revved up and start banging on the doors. And so I remember this one day, Ken, let me just tell you. So one day, we get
Mm.
trained. This is a paramilitary environment. I had to go through like a paramilitary boot camp, push-ups, sit-ups, restraining people, the whole thing. And
Wow.
so I remember this one day, you hear the call. So you have all the codes that are called.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One day they called one of the codes for all response. So it wasn't just our prison, it was the other prison that was in vicinity to our prison. So people were running. This was the big code. Do you
Oh
know the
man.
warden's face got slashed?
I did it.
It did.
I'm sitting here thinking when you told me he was like that, like
Yeah,
probably 90% of the guys in there could have ripped his head off.
they could. And so so what happened was there was
Wow.
3 separate tiers that you could, or
Yeah,
levels, right?
yeah,
And so if you were on your good behavior, not death row inmates, but the other inmates who were the high security, who've
yeah.
they killed their cellmates even in prison, they keep killing. And
Jeez.
so what happens is you can get to a level where you can go in the population, but it's still a very contained area, and it's a
Yeah,
small area where you can eat. And
yeah.
so there was this, I
Wow.
think he had antagonized, or the inmate at least felt antagonized by him. And he did everything he needed to do to get in the environment where he was able to come out to eat. And one day the warden toured, and he took, I don't know I think he had a razor. I don't know how, I think it was a razor, but he slashed his face. And so that day, Ken, I knew they let me go home every day. Like that. If you could get
Yeah,
to the highest level person in the facility,
yeah.
you could definitely
Wow.
get to me, right?
So now, did you have like an office in the prison where
I
inmates
did.
came in and
No,
you
not in
talked
that
to them
facility.
about their childhood or
No, no,
no?
no, not in
I'm
that
just I'm
facility.
just
They
sitting
had to
there.
be.
I'm picturing you with a notepad talking to them laying on some kind
No,
of a concrete couch.
no, sir. Not in
No.
that facility. Now I did run groups though. We did have
Oh,
groups where for
okay.
substance abuse or anger management, we did have groups for them. But again, if
Wow.
you're in the tier that I was in, they're not coming out for group. They're too dangerous. So
Oh
you
my
had to,
God.
when you got to that third level and you were doing good. But yeah, it was very scary. I know I was on fight or flight for the whole time that I was there. I don't remember even, I don't know. I had developed this tough exterior, where I couldn't show emotion. I had to be so hard working in a prison system. So,
Wow. My
yeah.
wife is watching. She said, "Wow." Yeah.
Yes,
So,
Jill.
so, oh my God. So what was I'm just curious and then we'll move on, but like did
Yeah.
you went to work and what? Like you just like dealt with people as it came at you or you how did your days go? I can't even imagine working in a prison.
Well, as a guard, it was different because I had my
Yeah.
own tier and I worked on third shift. So I actually was in a whole environment with about 80 men by myself at night. So you had to make sure after they locked them down. Yeah, I was in there by myself the whole time. Now, as a counselor, I had my own office, but I went and toured. So they're locked up, and I'm talking to you outside your door.
Oh
And
my
so, and then I
God.
ran the groups with other counselors as well. So you had a schedule. Every day was on a schedule,
Wow.
and yeah, it was very regimented, though.
Wow. I cannot imagine. My
Yeah,
look, my wife says you are so brave. I mean, right. Way braver than I would be. I'm telling you that
yeah.
right now.
Thank you,
So
Jill.
okay. So how long did you do that?
So I was in the prison system for a total of 3 years.
Okay.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Okay. And then one day you woke up and went, what am I doing?
No, it didn't
Oh,
happen like that.
oh, okay.
Because
That's
again,
what I would have done.
it was a 20 year and out job. If you made it out, now I had went to a lot, I attended a lot of funerals, and so a lot of people, due to stress, a lot of men died. But like a lot of the people who trained me, I was ending up going to their funerals within just those 3 years. And so it was
What?
a very high stress environment, heart attacks, cancer, all kind of stuff. And
Oh,
so I knew it was a very high stress job. What got me out of it though, I wasn't going to leave because I'm like, this is 20 years and out. Maybe I could be a warden. And but again, it was about prison reform. I thought that I could go in and make anywhere I go, I want to try to make an impact as much as possible.
yeah.
And so I actually got engaged to someone and ended up that person got a job in Maryland. So I ended up moving and transferring schools to the University of Maryland,
Okay.
School of Social Work. And so because I wouldn't have left. I probably I would have been retired about 4 years earlier than I retired. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
because
So
I was
you
so
ended up
young.
moving and you went to Maryland.
I went to Maryland.
Okay. And where did things, and you said you were engaged or
I was
married?
engaged. I broke up as soon as I graduated from school. We broke up.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. So, and you were in Maryland
I was in
still.
Maryland.
Okay. What
So
was going on in Maryland? Did you
so
work
let me tell
somewhere?
you. Okay, so I graduated in 2002. So this was 2001. I'm in my internship for the Baltimore Public Defender's Office. Again, I don't know why I was going to be this forensics person. Like I was thinking about going in the FBI. Like I watched the Clarice Starling, with Silence of the Lamb. I just had been around so much darkness as childhood that it felt relatable to be around these types of individuals. And so I was at the Public Defender's Office, and um, I will never forget. I remember the day of 9/11.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
We were all in, and I don't know how we got the notification, but someone said turn on the TV. And Kim, we turned on a TV and we literally watched the second plane go into the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And that day, I knew that I was going into the military. I said it that day. I declared that as soon as I graduate, I'm going in the military and I'm gonna serve. And at that time, the world really came together. Like we
Yep.
weren't, you're white, I'm black. We were Americans, we were
Yeah.
family, we loved each other, we had a level of camaraderie.
Yep.
And so I just knew. And so that's what really catapulted,
Wow.
the beginning of me and my service. So
So if you were still you had to be in your early 20s when all that happened, right?
so
Um,
yeah.
I'm just
uh
trying to do some math. And but you're
so I
still
ended
pretty
up going into
young.
the military. So I was no mid 20s. I was mid 20s.
Okay. Okay. So you go into so you join the military?
Not right away.
Okay.
Because to be a social worker in the military, you needed your independent clinical license, and that takes
Uh
about 2 years after you graduate. And
got it.
so, if you, the Air Force had this program, an internship. And so what happened was I didn't actually get in the first year. I got in the second year. So guess what I did the first year? You won't believe what my job was.
I can't even imagine. What was it?
Child welfare intensive unit for child fatalities with the family police for Montgomery County, Maryland.
Oh my God.
Ken, I don't know.
Shut up. Are you kidding me?
I'm not.
What were you thinking?
I'd
Why
rather
would you
work
do
on
that?
death row than deal with grieving parents and abuse of children and children fatalities. Let me tell you that. Any day.
Mm. All
That's the
right.
word.
So this is where I would be like, oh, I would get, it would get really, really, I'd be oh, Anyway, I'd be the one getting arrested probably. So, um,
Oh, having and have being
oh
a
my,
being a social worker, a mental health provider, and having to look in the faces of people who've murdered a child and act like they're a human. That was a little more. I still had to do it because you have to establish this rapport. You have to get information. We work with the
oh my
police.
God.
It was challenging. I will say that.
Challenging.
I don't
You
know the
said,
word.
I mean, that's a little bit more than challenging. How do you not want to just like that's the thing with me? Like I see this stuff on Twitter and of parents that literally either sexually abuse and
Yeah,
or murder their
yeah,
own child
that's right.
and babies.
Yeah,
You saw it all.
I saw it all. I saw it
H-
all.
How do you not have I mean, you see that stuff and I've often wondered about the people like you see the police officers that are arresting that
Yeah.
are just like maybe putting an extra bit of weight on their knee while they're pinning them down and handcuffing them. But I'm like, dude, you got a firearm. Just put them out of the like get like I how do you as a human being and a counselor reconcile that at night when you lay your head down and you go to sleep? How do you deal with that? That's got to cause PTSD. It has
Yeah,
to.
I had started having nightmares actually of some of the
Oh,
children that had passed on. They were coming in my dreams. And I
mm,
knew, but again, I had a plan, right? I was going into the military. I knew I was going. It was just a matter of time. But at the same time, though, because I am a survivor of child abuse, I
yeah.
had a level of empathy that it was like a calling that was higher than myself because I
Wow.
had my own social worker, when I was removed from my mother's house.
Yeah.
And so if you
Yeah.
had been in these situations and scenarios, I think your level of empathy is a little different because so it's like, who's going to save these children, right? Somebody has to do it. And so, because I could have gotten many jobs, So, but it was just, they picked me for that unit and I felt like it was a higher calling. And that
They
I
picked
believe,
you.
huh?
They picked you, you said.
Yeah, because they were actually hiring for several different units, and I actually got hired for that particular unit. And so I don't think, and I think the gentleman that was just on says something about God's grace.
Yeah.
If it's like God leads you to these environments, He leads you to your calling, and so some of it wasn't about me at that point, doing that type of role.
Wow.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, so I was not expecting all that today. But so wow, Malaysia, holy crap. So talk about my wife said are they even is it even possible to rehabilitate so I here's where the really insensitive side of me is going to come out for a second.
Hmm.
Who cares? Bury them under the prison. Bury them. Like
Yeah,
seriously, you kill
yeah,
your own child?
yeah.
Oh my
Or
god.
other people. It's not
Right.
always it might be a boyfriend, it might be someone who took in their niece or their nephew. It might
Wow.
be someone who was at a facility like a group home and they died there. So it was many different scenarios.
Oh my god.
But yes,
So
mhm.
wow. How do you okay, so talk about the you obviously having nightmares and having dreams and the children are I mean, how did you had to have go talk to somebody, I would
I
imagine.
didn't. I actually didn't at that
Oh
time.
my
Ken,
gosh.
for me,
Wow.
when you've experienced so much in life that you develop this exterior and you work on protecting yourself.
Yep.
And so you don't realize the level of trauma that you're exposed to because you're like, I got this. I've seen my friends have died. All these murders I've seen from, childhood. Like, you're like, you know what I mean? You don't
Wow.
realize how it impacts you,
Yeah.
especially when you're young, you got energy, you're vibrant. You don't realize. You're like, I'm here to help. How can I help? I want to make an impact. I want to make sure that other people don't experience what I experienced when I was a little girl. And
Wow.
so that's why you have this different calling on your life, and you have this spiritual sense that says, God got me. I've been through things. I'm going to get through this, but I'm also going to help people get through their stuff too.
Mm. You are a very special, I mean, very special
Thank
woman.
you. Thank you.
Jeff says you have strength and compassion for protecting right.
Yes.
Um, so you did that for a year, which would have seemed like 20 years probably.
Yeah.
But you
Every
did
day
that
felt
for,
like,
oh,
I
I'm
mean,
sure. So
removing people from homes. Hmm?
were you called out to the scene of a murdered child?
Oh, so I didn't no, I wasn't at the
Oh,
crime scene, but I've had to go with the police and physically get children removed. And I
oh my
remember this
God.
one mom, and I tried to work with her. I had my compassion level was so high. I understand if you don't have the means, I understand if you have problems with alcohol and addictions, but let me help you. I'm not here. And I think, in our community, I think a lot of people think like, oh, they're going to take my children. This is a social, they're going to take my, but honestly, there's not enough homes in this world to take all the children from you. We want to work with you. We want to help you.
Yeah.
And so I remember, Ken, there was
Wow.
this one day where one of the moms
Mm.
had to be hogtied, and it was very challenging because she was near a window and I had to coax her because she had her baby and I thought she was going to jump out of the window with her
Oh,
baby.
oh
I
my
mean,
God.
it was like a movie. And now that I'm thinking about everything and we're talking about it, it feels like
Wow.
my life was a complete movie.
That is unreal.
Yeah.
And you're taking these children because the parents are just not capable of being good parents, I'm assuming.
Some of that, but some of it was the environments were so dangerous for those children.
Wow.
And so, because I had the child fatalities, but then or serious injury, a lot of shaken baby syndrome. Oh,
Ugh.
that was so hard. Oh, that was so hard. But we also took other cases that, regular cases, but again, they end up becoming almost serious when you have to bring the police out. You have to take children from their, I wouldn't say take, I would say, remove them and put them in a safe environment. So what I
Yeah.
did for this one family, again, I thought she was going to jump out of the window with her baby because they probably rather do that than put their baby in the system, especially when,
Wow.
a lot of these people had their own experiences with child abuse and being
Yeah.
in foster care and things like that. So it's almost like this perpetual cycle that happens. But what I did though for this family, even though, I tried to work with her, as soon as that child was taken, we didn't have enough social workers to go and do the home study for her grandmother. I did it myself. I went and I did the home study so we could quickly get that baby to his family. That I'm not
Wow.
about removing people from their family. If you can't take care of your child, maybe there's a family member who would be willing to take your child in. And so that's really the goal, is to keep the baby with the family.
Man, I sit here and think, I remember being in the hospital when our daughter was born, and they have a counselor come in and talk to you about don't shake the baby. I'm
Yeah,
like, is this, why are you telling us this? Why are you counseling? Do we look like we're going to shake our baby?
yeah,
What are you talking about? But I think that, you know, obviously it's an issue,
it
but
is.
okay, that is depressing.
I
But you know
know.
what? But here's the thing. Here's the thing. And I truly believe this about all of life. that
Yes.
you can't ignore it. It's there and it's happening, and people need to
That's
be
right.
aware of it,
That's right.
and it needs to change. You
Yes.
know, my hat's off to you. Jeff says, does your circulatory system have room for blood? It must only be adrenaline in there. No
Well, Jeff,
kidding.
we're going to talk about it because it's funny that you're saying that.
Excuse me.
I'm talking a lot about this, in my book, but it
Yeah.
there were many years that my fight or flight response was on so high that it was like, did my vagus nerve even work at that point? And
Right.
so thank you, Jeff. I really, really appreciate, and I want to thank also all the military members, first responders, medical staff, social workers, mental health, anyone who are
Yeah.
the people who intervene in these situations, because it is a team effort. It is not one person. I want to
Yeah.
thank everybody in the community who does this work. Yes,
Yeah.
firefighter. Yeah,
He's a
absolutely.
firefighter. He says he gets it.
Yes.
So you went on after that. Did you go to the
I
military?
did. So I got accepted into the
Wow.
clinical social work residency program at
Wow.
Andrews Air Force Base.
Wow.
Yes, yeah, in
You go, girl.
2003.
Wow. Well,
Yeah, so
thank you for your service. Thank
thank
you.
you. I'm
Yeah.
honored. I'm
Yeah.
honored.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm really honored for the opportunity.
So you went into the military as a counselor.
Yes, yep, as a mental
Wow.
health provider. So in our residency program, we got training at all of the different, yeah, oh yeah, USHIS. Yeah, so our program was through Andrews, but yes, USHIS is a great school if you want to get training and serve at the same time. It's really great. If I could have done that, because you start your career so much earlier that by the time you get all your training, it's time to retire. So it's so
Yeah.
amazing. Uniform
Wow.
Services University, but ours was through the Air Force, through Andrews Air Force Base. And
Okay.
so we got to rotate through all the different areas where you performing services. So through the mental health clinic, through the substance abuse program, and through the family violence program, which is violence and prevention program, which is the family advocacy program. So we got to do our rotations through all of that. Let me just tell you, it was such a blessing being at Andrews, the home of Air Force One. It was just
Yeah.
so exciting to come, in service there. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how long did you do that? How long were you in?
I think that was about 10 months, 10 or 11 months that
Okay.
I was there at Andrews.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was
Okay.
exciting.
And did you stay in the military? Where
I
did things
did.
go?
Yep.
Okay.
So I
Where'd you
did
go?
7 years in the Air Force. After there, I went to, I remember the day I got the phone call. So in the residency program, they had 9 residents. 4 were at Andrews, 5 was at Travis Air Force Base. So they split us up. And I remember, so what they do is they give you 9 bases to choose from.
Oh,
And
wow.
Grand Forks, North Dakota was the last assignment that I put as my lowest. So generally you get one of your first 3 assignments.
Yeah.
When they called me and told me I was going to Grand Forks, North Dakota, I was the first resident in history to get her very last assignment. So I was like, Lord, what did I do to these people to send me to North Dakota?
Wow. North Dakota?
North Dakota. And it was
Come
funny because
on.
your recruiting officer says, oh, you get to travel the world. And I did not
Yeah.
consider North Dakota to be part of that plan. That's not part of my travel plan.
You're
So
thinking Hawaii, yeah. Wow. So
yes,
you go to North Dakota. So I imagine most of your counseling sessions would be on depression.
a lot of depression, a lot of alcohol use, a lot of drug use,
Jeez.
because it was very isolated. I mean, it's winter, like it's like winter and spring. There's no summer. And so, yeah, absolutely. You don't stop.
Yeah.
You keep going. And
Yeah.
honestly, Ken, so I do want to say this to people out there listening or who will watch this later. Sometimes what you think is meant to be for your harm or a negative experience, because I was like, they could have sent anyone there. And what they told me was that, I was the only social worker on that base. So they needed their strongest, so their most competent social worker, and I've heard that
Yeah.
many times in just my whole life. Like, you get the terrible assignments because you're the best, right? So we're going to
Yep.
send you here. And
Yep.
so, honestly, Ken, let me just tell you, I'm a new first lieutenant. So I came in as a promoted rank already. And I got to work directly with the wing commander and vice wing commander, because when they have incidents that are very dangerous, or suicide incidents, homicide incidents, or ones that are potentially could meet that. We did have, suicides there as well. They
Wow.
need to talk directly to you. So it was very scary, meeting directly, and I would call my leadership that was, out in the field. We have our leaders that are, at the MAGCOM level. And I was calling like, what do I do? Can I call you in on the phone? And they're like, no, you got it. You're going to go in there and you're going to do fine. But I
Oh my.
actually won Social Worker of the Year for the entire Air Force as first
What?
lieutenant. At my first available time, I won
Oh
for
my.
so because I was working such high level things. And back then, remember, you had that incident at the Air Force Academy that spewed this big thing about sexual assault prevention. And so, yeah. And so I
Yeah.
had to develop this program and launch it on the base within 3 days. And
Oh
so
my
they, of
gosh.
course, they made the social workers become the sexual assault response coordinate leads for the base. So I had my regular jobs, plus I had to do that. So yeah, they get their
Wow.
money out of you. They get their money.
Oh my God. So how many years in total were you in the military?
So I was in the Air Force for over 7 years.
Okay.
And I went from North Dakota to Hickam in Hawaii. I mean, no, not Hickam. I went to Osan in Korea. So that was really exciting. It was crazy over
Wow.
there too. And then I
Wow.
went to Hickam, Hawaii. And actually, I'll never forget. So, of course, I'm the chief of family advocacy. And at that time, I was the chief of the substance abuse program, too. So I had two programs. And I'll never forget the day. It was actually Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I was at an event, because we do a lot of events for, Child Abuse Prevention Month,
Yeah.
domestic. So I got the call from my dad that said my brother had been murdered. So that
Would
day,
you
and
stop? Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so
What?
that day, I was at a domestic violence conference, and he died in a domestic violence situation. And so that changed things for me a little bit, because I had to reflect on what was really important in life. And I remember, Ken, my dad, it affected him so horribly. So my brother was raised, he had a different mother, but I lived next door to him because I lived with my grandmother and he lived next door. And so it was challenging because, I remember, yeah, Larry, we do need, listen, we're going to talk about this week, because
That is so
it's a
true.
story. And I just believe that I didn't go through this for no reason, right? I'm here to tell, there's a lot of people who don't make it out of the trauma and the reoccurring traumas that happen in their lives. Different
Yeah.
things, right? All the different things that could happen. But I'm here to show you that you can make it through God's
Yep.
grace. You can make it, but it's a lot more work. So God just doesn't say, oh, just pray and everything's going to be a miracle. No, there's actions, there's resources, there's people that come in your life that
Yep.
help you through these situations. And
Yep.
so I decided to transfer into the United States Public Health Service, because my dad, I remember him saying, he had to make jokes because he was worried. This was the big war in Afghanistan at this time, right? And so
Yeah.
everybody was deploying, and he used to make jokes and say, if they take you as a prisoner of war, they're going to be begging the president to give you back. Like he would,
Wow. Wow. Holy
so he had
crap.
to make himself. And when I
Yeah.
was in Korea, Kim Jong Un was, yeah, Kim Jong, who was it? The father,
Yeah.
Kim Jong Il. At the time, he was. Remember, he was doing the test missiles
Yep.
over there.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
my dad's calling me like, does this concern you? And I'm like, a little bit, and
Wow. Holy
and so,
crap.
I just, after that happened, after my brother passed, and me actually helping to plan his funeral, seeing his face and the wounds and everything, it made me
Wow.
reflect on what's really important in life. And so I decided to transfer into the United States Public Health Service so I could be closer to family. And
Yeah.
because you had to pick your own jobs, I was able to stay in the DMV metro area. And so I could, if I need to get on a plane, I could get home in an hour to Massachusetts, or my sisters were in North Carolina. I could get
Yeah.
to either of them in an hour. So I
Yeah.
made that decision based on that.
So you're in the Maryland, you're talking about what's DMV?
Oh, yes, the DC, Maryland,
Oh,
Virginia area.
I
That's
got you.
why, for
Okay.
people
Okay.
who aren't here, I forget that.
I'm like, what are we talking about here? DMV. Sounds like a place to get a driver's license. So,
That's true.
yeah. So okay, so you got out of North Dakota.
Yes. No, in Hawaii.
Oh, you were in Hawaii, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, how was that? Being in Hawaii had to be
Hawaii
cool.
was beautiful, but they had
I'm sure.
we probably had the highest caseload because people get island fever over
Yeah, I've
there.
heard.
And a lot of people couldn't cope because it was like 16 hours to get home. Like it's a
Yeah.
whole day to get home. And so,
Yeah.
people were challenged with that, but I loved being on the water. I
Yeah,
love
I'm
the
sure.
water.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So okay, so you go back to Maryland. You're now
Mhm.
working for the United States Public Health Service.
Yeah, so I commissioned
Okay.
for a second time.
Okay.
I had, gotten promoted for the Air Force and made major, but I never pinned on. And so I ended up
What?
going to the United States Public Health Service. I came in as a lieutenant, lieutenant again, but that was a '03 equivalent to a captain in the Air Force. And so then I quickly made lieutenant commander, which is equivalent to a major. And I
Wait,
loved
that's a military branch, the United
it. Is
States
so it's
Public.
a uniform, sir. It's one of the 8 uniform
Really?
services. And we are under the Surgeon General of the United States and the Assistant Secretary for Health under Health and Human Services. So
Wow.
yes, it is we wear Navy ranks and Navy uniforms. You get the
No
same
kidding.
benefits as being a military member, mostly. Some people are
Wow.
like, no, but now they're starting to work so that the United States Public Health Service and NOAA, the National Oceanic
Oceanic.
Administration.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
all the terms.
Yeah. Wow.
Administration agency. They
Yeah.
we are one of the uniform services that are not under the Department of Defense, along with the
Wow.
Coast Guard. Coast Guard is under Homeland Security. So.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
So how long were you there?
So I think 12 or 4. Wait, okay. So we did 20 years. And so from
Wow.
2010 until this year, I was active duty in the United States Public Health Service, and I just retired.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, wow, wow, wow. Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Um, Along the way, I haven't heard anything about marriage and children. And was there any of that?
So yeah, so in the public health service, I ended up I had crazy jobs there too, but I ended up working for the Surgeon General of the United States under the
Wow.
President Obama administration. So that was, I
Wow.
mean, being in public health, it was just an amazing experience. I had a lot of leadership positions. I got to be the director of addictions medicine for the Department of Defense. So I worked a lot
Wow.
with the Office of the National Drug Control Policy, White House. So I was in a lot of their meetings and groups and committees. And so I didn't meet my husband until 2016. So he wasn't there for a majority of my career. I met my husband on Match.com. Now, I will not advise everyone to do that. I believe I have a spiritual power, and
Yeah.
connection with God. And I had a sign to get back on Match at this point, because I had dated over the years. But when you're
Yeah.
in such high visibility positions,
Yeah.
especially for women, you can't just date anyone. And actually, I would advise people to get background checks on the people that you date, because they will tell you that they're not married. They will tell
Yeah.
you that they don't have felonies. They will tell you, and you find out later that someone's married, and you'll still get in trouble. They don't care that you didn't know, because they
Wow.
have to show that they're, it's against the law for you to commit
Wow.
adultery. So yeah, you have, if you're a high achieving person, you better get that background check. For anybody with any type of security clearance, make
Yep.
sure you get it.
Wow.
And so I met my
Wow.
husband in 2016, and it was so amazing because actually his picture on Match.com, he had this Ranger sign. And so I was like, oh, he must be
Ah,
military or retired. So he
yeah.
understood what it was to be in uniform. And I felt like I needed that, because if someone had married me and they didn't understand military culture and where my mindset was and why I
Yeah.
have to work so many hours, like it probably wouldn't have worked. And so it was a blessing. He's a retired Army Ranger, airborne,
Wow.
so he understood, where I was and he didn't understand the United States Public Health Service though, and the rules,
I'm
because it's different. He didn't
I'm sure.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he supported
So
me through the rest of my career.
that is so awesome. So he was an airborne ranger, so he knows how to kill people just by looking at them.
But
Like
he has such
Larry.
a great demeanor that you wouldn't feel that. But I wouldn't
Right.
mess with him. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Not the guy you want to try to drag into
No,
an
I just
alley
wouldn't
and
do it.
rob. Yeah, don't do it. Not a good idea.
No,
So okay, so you just recently retired.
I did. I did. And that was an early
Oh,
retirement for me. I thought I'd do 30 years. I thought
wow.
I'd maybe potentially make admiral. That was, I thought
Yeah.
if that was God's will for my life.
Yeah.
I felt like this, Ken, we talked about the sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
Ken, if you've come from an environment, and especially with your ancestors, who haven't achieved different things or did not have the opportunity or were not even afforded a position to be able to even do these things, why do you think it is not your obligation to do something more than what
Yep.
they were able to do now that you have the opportunity? Right. And so that's where my mindset has been. It's
Yep.
like you don't have the opportunity to wallow that, oh, I don't have this opportunity, or oh, I'm a woman, oh, I'm a person of color. I'm walking in the room, Ken. I'm a walk in the room, I'm a bust in the
Yep.
door. If that's the door that God has for me, I'm
Yep.
walking through the door with my head held high. I want to see how I can be of value to
Come
whatever I'm
on.
doing. And so I'm here to show you that although despite the circumstances of life,
Yep.
that God has given you something. And the reason why you went through that, you may not know, but it's because he has something for you to do. It may take you some time to figure it out, but work with people, work with your coaches, work with your mental health providers, work with, but again, it's early for me. Remember, we talked about this. So
Yeah.
I would have
I
still been in.
I think about I mean, I came from a very similar environment
Yeah.
as you. Except for I dropped out of high school and 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 became an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But I thank God I'm coming up on 22 years sober now, but you know,
Amen.
yeah, but
Thank God. That is so
amen.
amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's a gift. But
it's a gift.
I think about I was not ever to statistically I wasn't supposed to ever amount to anything.
Mm.
And having an English teacher tell me I'd never amount to anything, and all,
Wow.
now I've written 8 books and she's written
Yes.
0, so there's that.
Yes.
Right. But I think about all of the people I see out here, and I'm getting to a point because I want to hear your feedback on this.
Yes.
I am really, 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 really not empathetic when it comes to bullshit excuses.
Yeah.
And pardon my language, but I hear people make excuses for
Mhm.
not being able to do this, not being able to do that. I'm the wrong color. I'm the wrong sex. I'm the wrong height. I'm the wrong
Yeah.
weight. I
Yeah.
don't have the education. I don't have this. Blah 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 blah. And so I'm just like, well, then change it. Do something about it. Like
Yeah.
what you can't. You're not gonna change anything in your life by complaining about what you
That's
don't
right.
have, so go get
That's
it.
right. That's
and
right.
and and I'm very not good at delivering that message. I mean, I maybe I am, I don't know, but
No, the
what do
emotional
you say?
intelligence side, we're here to
Yeah.
support you.
No, because I like I'm going to some kid's house that was recently murdered. There's probably going to be another homicide up in that place. I'm just telling you. So like how do you, when somebody comes to you with excuses, and what I know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
um how do you how do you deal with that? What do you say to them?
Yeah. Well, again, being a psychotherapist, a mental health provider, clinical social worker, I just have a level of empathy because sometimes people have experienced extreme trauma to the
Yeah.
point where, Ken, it's like if you're still dealing with the traumas and the fallout of it, how can you be successful? You can't even think every day. And
Right.
after my own experience, after when that came
Yeah.
back from that
Yeah.
deployment, and we'll talk about that,
Yeah.
I understand now. I have a level of empathy. Ken, I didn't think I was going to be here. I
Right.
did not think I was going to be here after all that stuff happened after my deployment. And I
Yep.
felt like my life was worthless. I felt like people didn't care about me. I was like, I loved everybody. I helped everybody, and no one helped me. But God said, no, it's all inside of you.
Mm.
It's not for everyone else. Now, what's going to happen is once you make a decision that you want to heal and you want to get in alignment with God's divine assignment for your life, then there's some things you're going to have to do. You're going to have to pick up your bed and walk, right?
Yep.
That's out the
Come
Bible.
on.
You're going to have to pick up your bed. So,
Yep.
and I don't know if we want to talk about what happened and how I
Yeah.
got through that, but I would want to meet that person where they are. They teach us that 101,
Yep.
mental health 101. Meet
Yep.
someone
Yep.
where they are, honestly, because and figure out what it is that's causing them to have this, this bondage period, or a period of being stuck or having blockages. Let's get down. They may need counseling, because if I've gone through all these things and I don't address them at all, to tell me, oh, just go and do it, it's not going to be a possibility. So everybody's
Right.
experience is completely different. Yes, we have the opportunity, but the question is, do you want to heal? Do you want to be successful? And so it all starts within. So if I and Larry talks a lot about that as well. Like if I try
Yeah.
to just do all these things and say, Larry, I want to be a philanthropist, I want to help people, I want to make all this money so that I can do that, but I'm not
Right.
dealing with the trauma, then I'm not ultimately, we've seen where billionaires have taken their lives, haven't we?
Yep.
Okay. So it's not about, if you're human first. Let's figure it out. And maybe
Yeah.
it's not us. Maybe you do need counseling. Maybe you do need
Right.
some other alternative therapies, which, I'm into now. And that's
Yeah.
helped me to heal working on my healing. I don't think we've ever arrived. I feel like it's a
Right.
journey. But
Right.
once you decide and you make that commitment and alignment to God and say, I want to heal. I want to
Yep.
be successful. I want to have a value and impact in this world. Those
Yep.
things are going to come to you once you start to take that step. Again, we wouldn't even be talking had these things not been going on. How am I here today? I feel like this
Yep.
is all divine timing. Now, had we had this conversation 3 years ago before I
Yep.
came back from deployment and almost passed away, then it would have been a very different conversation.
Very.
You got to
So
start
talk
from
about
within.
that. I cannot believe we've already been on an hour.
Oh,
Can you believe that? That
I
just
can't
went
believe it.
like
I
10
can't believe it.
minutes. So talk about that. You were on deployment and you got sick. I want you to tell everybody what happened and yeah. I don't
Yeah.
want to end this without
Yeah.
that story getting out. You need to
Yeah.
tell it.
So thank you. And thank you
Yeah.
for, again, allowing me to come and be on your
No.
platform.
It's
So
awesome.
huh?
This is awesome. It's incredible. Your story is
Clarity
amazing.
comes quickly. Yes, Jeff.
Yeah.
Clear. Once you decide, once you make that commitment, the people who are in your environment may not be in your environment. Your
That's
world is going
right.
to change. Once you change the inside, the outside is going to change too.
Yep.
And so not just appearances, but the people who are in your vicinity. Now I'm meeting with people of your and
Yeah.
so anyways, I deployed in 2020 at the height of the pandemic.
Yep.
And I was sent to the Navajo Nation, the most desolate area. And there was no resources there. They sent me by myself there to be the sole mental health provider and lead for
Wow.
the incident response team for the mental health team. And I provided all of the mental health services for all of the staff members at both of those environments. And so while I was there, it was one of the most challenging, I would say, deployments I've ever been on. The death toll was very high. I was hearing the stories of, people and their experiences, not just from the pandemic, but just their history of the people from the Navajo Nation and a lot of the other tribes. And it was also very dangerous, the environment. In different areas,
Jeez.
there are people who are on methamphetamines, drugs, alcohol.
Yeah.
And I remember being there by myself and, someone coming up to me, and I was very scared. I didn't know what to do. But at the same time, I was a military official, a high ranking military official. So if there was an incident, I didn't want it. I'm always thinking service first. They always say
Right.
service before self and
Yeah.
excellence in all you do. That's one of the first mantras I learned going in the Air Force. So I'm thinking about him. He could have
Wow.
taken my life, but I'm thinking about this gentleman like, oh, is this going to, and the government, is this going to be a national incident? So I was
Mm.
so scared. And they have these res dogs that they roam free. So they had these pit bulls, and I had to hide from them. It was just, and we were on lockdown for 7 days a week because of the pandemic. And so
Yeah.
for me to get any resources, I had to travel like 3 hour situation and get to Walmart, and there was no phone service going there. Ken, it was nuts. So
What?
as I started leaving, I felt this level of anxiety. But even before I left, I think it was probably acute stress reaction that I was having before I even left,
Wow.
as a mental health provider. And so I even asked, is there somewhere I can stay for a couple of days just to decompress? Because Ken, I was so down in the dumps, and I had, even to the point where I sent a message to my family saying I was divorcing my husband. My husband, he is so amazing, and he is someone, if I'm ever down, he's going to be like, let's get it together. You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
the
Right.
Army way. And so,
Right.
and
Right. Right.
I didn't feel like I needed the Army way at that time. And so
Yeah.
anyways, I got home, he was taking me walking, all these things. And so I ended up having some hip pain. And I remember one night, and so I thought I was overdoing exercising because that was my way to get it out. I
Yeah.
knew bodybuilding, I did races all over the world. And so I was thinking, let's just work out, work out, work out. And so I
Yeah.
thought I had overdid it. And so I remember one night I couldn't get up from the bed. And so I ended up crawling. I needed to go to the bathroom. I crawled to the bathroom, and I couldn't get up. And so I was there on the bathroom floor crying. My husband came and got me. He picked me up. He said, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I can't walk." And I was in
Oh
extreme
my
pain.
God.
So me, Ken, again, I've been through a lot, right? So I'm like, "Oh no, I know what to do. I got this. Let me get some Advil. Let me get the Tiger Balm." I had done karate and they, in my younger years. So they told me
Yeah.
about the Tiger Balm, did all the things. So anyway, it got worse and worse. So one day we called the ambulance. They took me to this community medical center. They did an x-ray, gave me morphine and sent me home. They said nothing, they didn't see anything. So ultimately, I ended up one day, my husband's like, "We need to go to the military hospital." He took me to Andrews. They transported me to Walter Reed. I was hospitalized, and I remember they were giving me Dilaudid. It was like this high level of pain medication intravenously,
Yeah.
and I was getting it every whatever was the time period that I needed it. And
Yeah.
even the meds didn't bring the pain away. So, Ken, I knew I was slipping away and I knew I was dying, but I don't
Oh
know
my
if I really
God.
said that to anyone. I was trying to make amends with God. I was singing spirituals, spirituals to myself, the hymnals that I
Yeah.
knew from childhood, from going to church. I was sending texts to people. My girlfriend was in Afghanistan at the time. And I just wanted people to know that I love them, but I knew I felt
Wow.
myself slipping away. And so they came in 4 days later. They said, "Captain Harrell, we can't find anything. We're sending you home today. And by the way, since you just came home from deployment, we're going to send in a psychiatrist."
Wow. Wow. So
Yeah,
they thought your pain was all in your head.
somatic. I said, "I'm a mental
Well,
health provider. If this is I couldn't even be a patient, Ken. But I said, if this is a somatic symptom, send that psychiatrist in here because we need to figure it out." And I said, "You can euthanize me because you wouldn't be able to deal with the pain."
wow. Holy crap.
Yeah.
So what happened?
So they ended up, because I pushed, and again,
Well,
I couldn't get,
they didn't euthanize you.
no,
Thank
they
God.
didn't.
Thank
And
God for that.
but I pressed, and I couldn't be a real patient. I had to be this strong provider and speak their language, because again, I'm like, "You're not seeing me. You're not seeing the patient." And again, I was thinking some stuff about color myself. I'm like, I remember generals' wives coming in here, person out of color, they're gonna shut the place down. But I come in here and I'm crazy. You know what I mean? And so I was
Yeah.
very angry. I was very upset.
Yeah.
And so what I did was, they did a fluoroscopy. They put this needle, this huge needle, all the way down in my leg, in my
Oh,
hip. They took out a sample. Ken, when they took that sample, they're running in, maybe 15, 10 minutes. They're running in, getting me ready for surgery. Everybody's coming. Ken, I would have been dead in days. I would have
what
been
was
dead.
it?
I knew I was dying. Septic hip.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the
A
heck?
septic hip. I would have been bye-bye. We
What
wouldn't have been
causes
having this
that?
conversation right now had I not pushed them.
Right. What causes that?
So I don't know exactly. I believe, again, I've done a lot of soul searching, research, healing. I'm doing all the things. And I believe it was the water. So what was happening was, I was taking baths every day because we were at the height of COVID. We didn't have true prophylactics, and the whole zone was red. So there wasn't like, you didn't know who had COVID. Every day somebody else
Wow.
might have had COVID. And so, and people were dying of COVID. Like, they were dying. And so,
Wow.
especially there. And so what I did was, I thought I could, take baths, and it was healthy for my mental space, to take a soothing bath. And I remember cutting myself on that leg, but I believe something was
Jeez.
poisonous that got into me internally to cause me to have that septic hip.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
You've got to be kidding me.
I'm not kidding.
So, so, so you had to have surgery.
I did. I had two back-to-back surgeries on that hip. They tried to do an irrigation, and I was still in extreme pain because it
Oh
was
my
far
God.
gone by then. They didn't realize how in depth that was. And I knew I was ascending. I knew I was going. And so, And so they did another one. They cut the bone out. They put a spacer in because I had to be on a pick with antibiotics for 6 weeks straight, 24/7 antibiotics going in my system. And so it really ended
Jeez.
up wreaking havoc on my body in the long run. And I ended up, in the past 4 years, 8 surgeries.
Good
Um,
Lord.
and I had a lot of more diagnosis. I ended up getting sarcoidosis. They thought I had cancer. I had Bell's palsy. My hair fell out. I think my
What?
entire body shut down, and it was an entire shock to my system.
Oh my God. So did you have to do a medical retirement?
I did.
Did you?
You know me,
Wow.
I'm not going out. Like, I want to
I
stay.
know. Wow.
So I did
Wow.
20,
Wow.
20
Wow.
years, 20 years and 8 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Y'all gonna have to kick me out. I ain't leaving. You
Oh
know,
my God.
this is my story. Oh,
S-
wow.
So you I mean, do you have I mean, because you and I've talked about some of this stuff.
Yeah,
Do you have ongoing lifetime medical care for
I
these?
do.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
through the
Yeah,
VA. So,
yeah, good.
and getting set up through the VA and TRICARE.
Yeah.
Um, and
Jeez.
I will tell, I want to speak to the people who are veterans,
Yeah.
because we're still having an average of 22 deaths per day.
That's
I
unbelievable.
believe that number is low, because I don't believe all of the deaths are deemed a suicide. And we know
Right.
that even
Yeah.
in the civilian population, because they want to protect the family. And it's not easy, even with myself, who, can make a phone call, or not make a phone, but who might know someone to call to ask a question. For
Yeah.
people who haven't had that, it's been very
Right.
difficult. And in the past couple of weeks, I met 2 women who were veterans who told me they were homeless. And so I
Wow.
understand why, or have an empathy for why someone would want to take their life. And what I will say to you is, we have resources. It is not easy to access them all. I'm not going to act like, oh, yeah, just call them. It's a bureaucratic system. There is some red tape, but I want to tell you that we will get through it. There are people to support you through the process, which I now have. And so there's, again, even with meeting Larry through the Institute of Veteran and Military Families, that allowed me to support, because as a high achieving woman who wore this mask for many years from all the traumas that I experienced, it's easier to say, like, I wouldn't want to go out. I'm used to being up here. I don't want to go out at a low level. So let me
Right.
just check out. It's easy to
Right.
say that. But
Yeah.
what I will say is, it allows you to get closer to God, and it allows you the opportunity to try to hear from God. And that wasn't easy, because I was like,
Mm.
why me? I'm doing everything. Why me? Why did this happen? I was supposed to do this. But God said, I got something bigger for you that I want you to do. And this
Come
is why
on.
you need to go through this. And sometimes you're the voice. You might be that mouthpiece that's going
Yep.
to be an advocate for people who are going through similar situations. But no matter, we talk about healthcare disparities, and even studies have shown, people of color may not even get pain meds at the level of other people. And it does happen. But I'm saying
Wow.
there are advocates, and you need to advocate for yourself. No one's going to save you. So in my healing journey, I listened to a lot of David Goggins. I needed those days to have somebody cuss and say, get your butt
I
together.
love David Goggins.
David Goggins,
I almost
CC.
called you the female version of David Goggins a little bit ago. Like, for
You know
real.
what's so my book that's coming out, God Has My Six. I actually got the inspiration from the cover from David God
I
Color.
love it.
Yes, Larry says speaking out,
Yep.
silence is a killer. Yes,
Yep.
speak out and speak up. And it's the people we are the voice. We're going to speak out. We're going to speak
Yep.
up. Yes, it doesn't look pretty. And it may seem like the odds are against you, but I'm here to tell you that no, With God, all things are possible. We got you. God has your six. That's my book that's
I
coming out.
love it.
And so I listened to CT Fletcher. I went back and listened to a lot of his videos from when I used to bodybuild and do a lot of
Yeah.
weights. I listened to David Goggins, but I also listened to the spiritual teachers, Dr.
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza, Eckhart
Yeah.
Tolle,
Yeah.
Dr. Michael Beckwith. So there were
Yeah.
the days that I felt so low, I needed the David Goggins, because I'm like Eckhart Tolle and the mindfulness and the power of now. I just couldn't feel it. I needed somebody to really.
Goggins to go.
I need
You worn out. You've only given 40%. Like,
and
what?
it's like, get out of the bed. If you could, there were days I
Yeah.
couldn't get out of bed. There was days I couldn't take a shower. Yes, you see all the glitz and glam. That happens. I get these
Yeah.
headaches. But I'm going to tell you, if you can't do one thing, do one thing. Just if you could take a shower, just wash up. Do that. That's something.
Yeah.
But when you're somebody who has done so many things, you might think that that's not it. I shouldn't be a punk. I shouldn't be. No, do one thing. Make one phone call. Maybe you're going to call the veterans hotline and talk to somebody through it, or talk to a loved one or a family member or someone you trust. Do that one courageous thing. It doesn't have to be, oh, I got to work and I got to do all this stuff. Do what you need to do for you. Everybody's healing journey doesn't look the same.
It does not.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You're right.
Yeah.
You are one bad ass woman.
Thank you.
You are. I'm telling you, like, holy crap. And I think that, the world, I say this a lot, like, and Larry and I've talked about this too, but I'm in recovery, and I watched guys that I sponsored in the program that died.
Yeah.
I remember this one kid calling me all the time. He drunk. I'm like, stop, dude, you're missing a fundamental part of this. If you want to stay sober, you can't drink. Stop it. Like, I'm like, but I've seen a lot of the same stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that, what you've been through, and you said this, and I love your perspective on this, because you could be a victim.
I had those days. I do have I'm not going to say it's done. You see the cute side today.
Well, don't call me with that. I'll put you in check. But like,
no, but with my husband, he won't let me. So that's what I was telling you. He's like, what do we need to do? Like, he's not going to let me sit there and be a victim. Like, and he, no, I never was a victim before that, but I'm just saying, you will have these questions for God to say why, because I thought I was being faithful, a faithful servant. I thought I was doing all these things, but it's not about what you do. It's about being in alignment with God's assignment for your life. Not, I do all this stuff for the home. I do all this. I'm supposed to be good. You might not be doing what you were called to do. That's the difference.
And the other thing is, and I had a sponsor in recovery say this to me once. He said, dude, put the effing ball bat down. Quit beating the shit out of yourself.
Yes. Having grace.
Right? Because even Jesus was on the cross and said, my father, why hast thou forsaken me?
Yes.
Right? Like, even Jesus said it. He's like, yo, what the heck is this all about? Where are you? Right?
Yes.
And so it's okay to have those moments. That just makes you human.
It does.
But it's not okay to stay there.
It's not. It is not okay. That's the difference.
Go listen to David Goggins.
Both of his books had come out within a couple of years. So I listened to the first one, I think 3 times. I needed somebody in my ear. I put on my headphones.
Can't hurt
and
me.
I would just, even if I couldn't get out the bed, I'm listening to it. Listen to whatever. Listen to the meditations. I'm in extreme pain. You got all these meds that are making you. I was up to 254 pounds, Ken. You're like, It's getting worse and worse. Why am I here?
Wow.
but I'm not
Yeah.
that now. Look at me. You know what I mean? There are resources available, but you need to
Yes.
be in alignment and you need to allow them to attract them, because you don't
Amen.
want to just do everything, because now you're working outside of yourself. When you look at yourself intrinsically, and in that gut and that discernment that you have, when you make
Yeah.
that decision to say, I'm going to be obedient to my calling, what happens is you just start meeting people. You'll listen to a TV program. You might listen to this podcast. Somebody
Yeah.
says, oh, how did I hear that? I needed to hear that. Or I keep hearing the same message over and over. Ding, 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 ding. The light
Yeah.
bulb's going off. You're not listening.
Yep. God's trying to tell you something. Listen, you got to
That's
listen.
right.
So let me ask you this. What, and we are 20 minutes over. Let
Okay.
me ask you this.
Yes.
If people that want to get in touch with you or follow you, or what's your website address? I'm going to pop it up on screen.
Okay. So I have two websites.
Well, just
And
give me one.
okay.
What's the
So
one you want me to put up?
okay. So www.
Yep.
blissfullifeconsulting
Blissful Life
consulting
Consulting dot
com. Yeah,
com.
so we do holistic wellness for individuals, groups, and businesses, organizations.
Wow.
It's important to have wellness for all aspects of life. I'm on most social media platforms: Facebook, Malaysia Harrell, and also Instagram. And I have a live every Thursday at 7 p.m. called Tiny Miracles, and we talk
Wow.
about how you turn your trauma into living the life
Yep.
of your divine assignment. And so, you can get in touch with me any of those ways. I'm also on LinkedIn. And so I do speaking engagements, I do workshops, I do, my book is coming out, the God Has My Six book. And
Love
so I
that.
just want to inspire anyone who, if you felt like, if you heard my story, again, I don't like talking about the darkness, but I think it's important for you to know, so you can say, okay, I can get through this too.
Yep. I mean, you have to talk about the
That's
darkness.
right.
Otherwise, you're not relatable. You
That's
got to
right.
be, people need to be able to relate to you.
That's right.
Everybody go to blissfullifeconsulting.com. Follow Malaysia everywhere. Look at her. Look at how just beautiful and shining light she is into
Thank
this world.
you.
Follow her, listen to her. Larry, thank you for being on
Thank
here,
you,
brother. I love you,
Larry.
dude. He's amazing. I love that guy.
He's
And Eric,
amazing. And having a coach that you can literally cry on their shoulder,
yeah,
like, I appear this strong, but sometimes you need to deal with those emotions. Do not keep them pinned up, but get
yeah,
somebody that you could be very vulnerable with. I think that's very important, so that they
yep,
can really help you on a holistic level, as opposed to just, okay, we got this business going. What do we need to do here?
yeah,
So,
right, right.
yeah. Love you too,
Well,
Larry.
yeah, I love you, brother. So listen, Malaysia, you're incredible.
Thank
And
you.
Eric Flanoy, you'll see him in Grow Live Academy. I call
Okay.
him, he goes by the brother, the brother. I can't even say it the way he types it out. But he's in the ministry here in Houston, Texas. So
Oh,
he's awesome. Eric's awesome. So um
awesome. Nice to meet you,
Malaysia,
Larry.
Malaysia, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on and sharing your beautiful heart today with
Thank you.
everybody. And you have such a powerful story. More people need to know about it and hear it and know you, because you're an amazing, amazing lady. You're
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you, Ken. And
So
thank you
grateful.
for the light that you're sharing in the world. You're saying, I didn't come up with all the means. I dealt with all these things. And you're showing people, you're putting people on your platforms to spread positivity and not negativity. And I really
Amen.
appreciate that about you.
Thank you. Yeah,
You're welcome.
that's what life's about.
It
We
is.
gotta we gotta lift each other up. and
That's right.
and uh, and what's the saying? A rising tide lifts all ships. Let's
Yes.
let's raise the energy, spiritual energy in this world, and just help each other
That's
become
right.
better.
That's right.
That's what it's about. So, Malaysia, thank you. I'm going to end the live stream now. Thank
Okay.
you for coming on and being such an amazing light.
Thank
And
you.
everybody listening on the podcast platforms, go to blissfullifeconsulting.com and follow Malaysia. Go follow her on Instagram. After this, I'm going to tag you on Instagram.
Okay.
But let's get her some followers and 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 pay attention to what she's talking about, because she
Thank you.
knows. So thank you, Malaysia. God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
God bless you too.
Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much.